You want an apartment that works. Not much. Just a door you can get through and a rule book that doesn't set your life on fire. But then the landlord says, no pets. And you've got an assistance animal. Or maybe you need a grab bar in the bathroom. Or a parking spot that doesn't require a hike. And the landlord waves the lease at you like it's a sacred scroll. That's where the measuring tape comes in. A stickman from HUD appears with a measuring tape. The landlord says rule, you say accommodation. HUD measures the gap. That's not a bit. That's federal law, the Fair Housing Act, and it draws a line between what a landlord wants and what a tenant needs. The question is, what exactly can you ask for? And when can they say no? Most tenants have no idea, especially older adults. Mobility problems, health needs, and invisible disability, they don't register as legal rights in housing. But they are. You can ask your landlord to bend the rules. And sometimes break them entirely. Legally. It's not one rule, though, it's two. First, reasonable accommodation. That's a change to a rule, policy, or practice. No physical alteration. Just stop enforcing this thing that makes my life impossible. Example, a building says no pets. You have a disability that requires an assistance animal. You ask to waive the no pets policy. That's an accommodation. Second, reasonable modification. That's a physical change to the unit or common area. Think grab bars in the bathroom. A ramp, widen doorways so a wheelchair actually fits. You're allowed to do that. The landlord has to let you. Accommodation tweaks the rulebook. Modification picks up a wrench. Both are rights under the Fair Housing Act, added in 1988, because Congress realized that disability doesn't pause at the property line. Now, you can ask. But can the landlord just say no? Yes, but not because they feel like it. The law uses a test. It's called reasonableness. The measuring tape again. A landlord must grant the request unless it creates an undue financial or administrative burden, fundamentally alters the nature of the housing, or threatens health or safety. That's it. Not I don't want to, not the lease says so, not it might annoy the other tenants. Undue burden is a high bar. We're talking massive cost relative to the landlord's resources. A small landlord with one 4-unit building isn't expected to install a commercial elevator. But a large apartment complex might need to install a ramp. Fundamental alteration means the request would change the entire business model. If you want to run a daycare in a quiet residential co-op, that's probably not an accommodation. That's a new business. And safety threats must be direct and obvious, not hypothetical. What if your emotional support iguana bites someone? Isn't enough if the iguana has never bitten anyone. The threat must be specific and serious. Now the measuring tape stretches. Reasonableness is fact-specific. A request that's reasonable in one building might be unreasonable in another. The tape only breaks if the request is absurd. So, the biggest area where this matters, assistance animals, and this is where everyone gets it wrong. The Fair Housing Act says assistance animal includes trained service dogs, sure, but it also includes emotional support animals. If you have a disability, diagnosed or not obvious, and the animal alleviates symptoms, it's an assistance animal. The law doesn't care if it's a dog, a cat, or a miniature horse, though miniature horses get extra scrutiny. Okay, miniature horses get extra scrutiny, but they're not banned. Landlords can't charge pet fees because it's not a pet. It's a reasonable accommodation. Charging a deposit for an assistance animal is like charging you extra to use a wheelchair. Illegal. But can the landlord ask for proof? Yes. If your disability isn't obvious, like you don't use a white cane, they can request reliable documentation. A letter from a medical professional, therapist, or social worker. They can't demand a complete medical history. They can't ask what your disability is. They just need confirmation that you have a disability and the animal helps. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable. Landlords try to sniff out fake ESAs. They'll ask for specific forms or registrations, but there's no official ESA registry. Those online certificates you can buy for $49, worthless paper. HUD guidance says the documentation must be from someone who knows you, who has treated you, not a website that sells emotional support peacock letters. And yes, people abuse this. They want to fly with their emotional support animal. That frustrates landlords, but the law protects people with real needs. It's not the law's job to make sure every animal is legitimate. It's the law's job to prevent discrimination. Back to the measuring tape. Who pays for all this? The cost allocation is surprisingly simple. For accommodations, there's usually no direct cost, but the landlord bears any incidental expenses. So no pet fees, no extra rent, no deposit. For modifications, you usually pay. You want grab bars. You install them. You want a ramp, you pay for it, but the landlord must allow it. They can require the work be done in a professional manner. And at the end of the lease, they can require restoration if it's reasonable. You can't leave a ramp bolted to the entrance if the next tenant doesn't need it, unless the landlord agrees. There are exceptions. In federally funded housing, the landlord might have to pay for modifications. But for most private rental, the tenant foots the bill. What else can you ask for? Reserved accessible parking. A transfer to a ground floor unit. A live-in aid, even if the lease says no additional occupants. A change in the rent due date to align with a disability check. All reasonable accommodations. And here's the kicker. Older adults don't think of arthritis, chronic pain, or mobility decline as disabilities. But under the law, they often are. A walker is a physical impairment. Needing a ground floor apartment because stairs are agony is a disability-related need. The law sees that, landlords not always, so the script flips. The landlord says no, you say reasonable accommodation. HUD appears with the measuring tape. The tape stretches. The landlord frowns. The tape holds. The landlord nods reluctantly. That's not fantasy. That's the process. Now let's zoom out. The Fair Housing Act covers most housing. Private rentals, condos, co-ops, but short-term rentals may be exempt if owner-occupied. It doesn't cover owner-occupied buildings with 4 or fewer units or single-family homes sold or rented without a broker, but those are narrow exceptions. And states can have stronger laws. So, what have we learned? Accommodation changes a rule. Modification changes a structure. Both must be reasonable. The landlord can't just say no. They need a real, heavy reason. The measuring tape doesn't break easily. Assistance animals are protected, pet fees are not allowed, and emotional support animals count. Documentation is limited. You pay for physical stuff, they pay for policy shifts. And if you're older or have a hidden disability, you still have the right to ask. The line is reasonableness, and HUD retracts the measuring tape.